Hi guys, it's morning here, so I got my coffee. Um, all right, so where were we? All right, so I guess what we need to do now is we need to start adding the other side of what we were hooking up right from the API, the local API, which is our well, actually, it's not even an API yet, so I'm not gonna call it that because eventually I'm gonna start calling it API when I actually do transfer this into an API format type of deal. So for right now, I'm gonna just call it data. All right. So from our piece of data, we have a piece of data that is called a reminder. Okay, and that's going to be basically an icon here that is going to act like a check, like a radio button, basically, like a checkbox. And if it's checked, it's going to be an icon, and if it's unchecked, it's going to be a different icon, and that's going to give you the reference whether something is checked or not, whatever. So let's do this. First thing we need. Oh, and by the way, if you hear a dog, it's my neighbor's dog, so I'm sorry. All right. So first things first, we need to add the icon library. Okay. So technically speaking, if you're going to be using a lot of icons, you use a library. But if you're not going to use a lot of icons and you are good with vectoring images software like Illustrator, for example, and you want to make your own icon, that's a good way to do it. If you have a designer in your place where you work that could do the icon for you, that's another way to do it. Or if you have a way that you can download only that particular icon, then that's also a good way to do it, instead of downloading an entire library for just one icon. But for this purpose, we're going to go for the whole library because it's just easier, and I don't think you guys want to see me designing an icon because that just takes a lot of silence and it's just a tedious work because you have to be perfect so it looks nice. Okay. All right. So there is, I already have it kind of here. So if you, let me go back a step. If you search for Angular Font Awesome, okay, you're gonna get this link down here, this GitHub page right here where it lives, and you're gonna click on that. And within there, if you fall, you go down a little bit more, you're gonna see that there is an introduction to something different here. That instead of npm like this one, npm install, you can actually use ng add, which is again another CLI, another Angular CLI command adding an npm package and installing it right off the bat. So you could do that. You could just do npm font awesome Angular font awesome, just like that, without the version, and it will ask you already what fonts you want and blah blah blah, all this stuff, right? So before we do that, let's see first if font awesome actually has the icons we need. So we're looking for a bell. So let's see, font awesome icons, and we're gonna click on icons. We don't need that. All right, so let's search for icon. Let's see bell. All right, so we have a bell, and then we have a bell slash. So that's kind of what we're gonna need, bell and bell slash. All right, so so they do have what we need. So we could do it this way. We could do it with this, or we could do it where we install only like with the npm packaging. Okay, now if I recall correctly, Font Awesome is going to also ask us to install the core anyway, or the actual Font Awesome. So don't quote me exactly on that, but I am going to make sure. Yeah, I think it's gonna ask for the Font Awesome npm eventually anyway. This one here. Okay, so instead of going through all this mess over here with the ng add, let's just do that initially, and we go to our application here, and this is the one that we use for creating components. So I'm actually going to leave that one alone, and I'm going to split that one more time, and I'm going to use this one instead, and I'm going to go ahead and save it. Okay, and hit enter, and then just give it a minute. Okay, so we have an error. Interesting. All right, let's see what we got here. So let's move this in here. Let's move this in here so we can read better. And it says here that the Angular Core 11 from the root project. Okay, so while resolving Angular test tracker found Angular Core unable to repose dependency. All right. Could not resolve Angular Core 12 from the root of the project. All right, so that's weird. So let's do this one then. Let's do these ng add here to the. So let's go ahead and do that and hit enter. And it's probably going to ask us which specific type of file we want to add. Okay, here we go. So let's just go ahead and freeze solid icons and click on space as well for free regular icons and free brand icons. Yeah, sure, add the brand icons, because you may actually end up adding a in the contact page, you may want to add something that goes to Facebook, for example, right? And you want to be able to add the Facebook logo, icon. Alright, so that's good. Now we can press enter, and it's going to update the package.json and the modules, obviously, because it's going to install them there. And then it's installing the npm packages. Alright, now I see that that was done, but there is a font awesome module here that is also yelling. Let's do a recompile. It's Control C to escape out of everything, and ng serve again, and let's do this. Maybe it just needs to recompile all this stuff together. Sometimes that happens, so just give it a minute. See, this is why I wanted to leave this for its own video, because sometimes when you're downloading libraries like from somewhere else with this size, this is what happens. All right, so cool, we're good to go. It just needed to be compiled again. All right, so now this one I'm not going to use so much, so I'm going to put it there because that's basically for installing packages, and this one is for the actual installing, creating components and whatnot. All right, so now that that's done, we can go back to our little piece of software here that we're building, and go ahead and put this back where it was. All right, so if we go now to the task item component right here, we should be able to use the package. Actually, let's look at how it's used. Oh, excuse me. Let's look at how it's used here. So it's basically telling us here that once you add it to your imports, once you install it, you should add it to your imports. Now, however, I don't think we have to, because we're using the CLI. So when we use the CLI, this gets added to our modules TS automatically. So let's just look at let's look at the app module right here, the module TS, and you can see how the font awesome module was already added, and it's already being imported in here. So that's the beauty of having. So now we're going to. This is how you will use it. Then you would import the actual icon by the name, okay, and then you can go ahead and use it anywhere you want. So let's go ahead and use it from the component. So we're going to the component task item right here, and let's just do something like this, and then copy it here. Is this a task item? Yeah, that's the task item. We're gonna put it right here, but we're not gonna use FA coffee, right? We're gonna use the bell. So what is that called? We shall see. I wish there was a way that it would tell you which ones are called what. So let's look at it. So let's look at the coffee and see something here. Okay, so if we look at the coffee here, and you click on it, you see how it says FA-coffee. So that's kind of a hint of how the naming convention is for their components. So that tells me, if I go back, that if I use the bell, this one right here, is going to be FA bell, but without the dash. So I'm gonna just keep that FA on the front, and I'm gonna put the bell in capital letters like that, FA bell. There you go. And we're gonna use the FA bell slash as well. So we're gonna copy that FA bell slash. So we're gonna use both of those from the free solid SVG icons. All right, cool. And now it says here, the next thing you need to do is to basically inside your component create a variable where you can assign that reference to it, right? So we're going ahead and do that. Underneath this input right here, we're going to create a couple of them like this, and then we're going to create this one and name it FA bell, and this one is going to be bell slash. We're just renaming it basically, but we're assigning it to a local, let's just recall it like this. We're not assigning it to itself. This is this and these two things are two different things. This is this right here, the actual import. This is the import. This is the actual see, it says right there import. That's the actual import. This is a variable that I'm saving this import into. I'm just calling it something else. So you could call it right here actually FA bell icon, and there you go, just so it's easier to understand what we're doing. All right, and then the next step is using the icon in the template, and it says here that create something like this. So I'm going to save this, and I think we can now go back to our application so we can see it, and we're gonna go to task item, and in the task item, all right, let's see what kind of format I created in the other project before I move on, because I kind of, like I said earlier, I want it to be kind of look, the same as we did in the other one. So so bear with me for a second while I get the all right, so what we did in the other one is we created underneath this we created a div, and we gave that a class, and that class is task icons. And then inside there we have a couple icons. Well, we're gonna have more than just a couple icons, but we're gonna do this, and then we're going to put here, so this is going to be the FA bell icon that we named, the one that we renamed, the one that we reused, and this is going to be the FA bell slash icon. Now if I did this correctly, I should have both icons showing up. Awesome. Now I don't want to use both of them at the same time, okay? They need to be, if the reminder of the if the reminder is true, if the task reminder is true, then basically it's going to be, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put here, and we're gonna do ngIf, because we want to do an if condition, ngIf, and there's a better way to do this, by the way, but we're gonna do it this way for now, and then maybe we'll modify it to a better solution, a better way to do this. ngIf task icon, not task icon, what was it, task reminder, ngIf task reminder, okay, so right there. So we basically said that we're going to show the bell icon if the task reminder is true, right? In this case right here, the task reminder is false, so it's not showing, but in these cases the task reminder is true, so it is showing. Now we got to do something about the other one, right? Because we don't want the other one to show all the time, so you will basically going to do basically the same thing, but we're gonna show that one if it's not. Now we hit enter. So now we're seeing the ones that are true, right? This has a reminder, is going to show in whatever, and you know, which one is it? False. Okay, let me look at this. The data, I'm confused myself as to what. Yeah, that's a reminder. So if it's reminded, that's what I'm looking for. If it's reminded, then it's going to show that, and if it doesn't have a reminder, then it's going to show that. Is that right? Yes. If it is reminded, it's going to have it, and if it's not reminded, it's going to have that. Okay. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Some people like to do it differently. Some people like to have it. This, for some people, this would mean click it to be reminded to be true, or click it to be true, and then click this to be false. So it's showing you the action that you want out of it. But in my head, it means something different. In my head, it means the current state. It's on, it's off. Does that make sense to you? I guess you could use it either way you want. It depends on your, on how your brain processes that information. I think it is kind of deceiving either way. So, but I like it this way better. All right. So now, if we did something else different, and something else in the other, the React component, and in the React component, I believe we had a reminder class attached to the top, to the left side here, where it had green and like a green border. All right, so how we're going to do this is basically we're going to make sure that we add a conditional class to our element here, right, to our main thing, so we can add the border on the left side. Now in React and other languages, you can do some conditional statements within the class here using some expressions and things like that, but this is not the way we do it in Angular. So in Angular, what we do is we make sure we make use of the Ng Class Directive. So the Ng Class, if it's basically a directive that Angular uses so that you can conditionally use the class on an element, depending on the condition to be true or false, or whatever it is that you define. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to declare the Ng Class Directive inside of these bracket things, and then we're going to equals to, right? It's going to turn it into a string, whatever you do. So that's why it's going to be a string, because it's going to be eventually whatever expression you put inside is going to output a string. So that's why it's a string, equals to a string. Now inside there, we're going to use the square brackets to tell Angular that you're going to use an expression. Okay, and what we're going to do here is it's going to take basically two parameters. It's going to take the class that you want to add, a semicolon, and then the actual parameter that you want to evaluate. Okay, so what do we want to evaluate is if the task reminder is true. So if the task reminder is true, we're going to add the class reminder, right? And that technically alone should work. In fact, you don't even need this. You can just do that and then hit enter, and then you can see that the ones that are reminded, you have this green arrow here. But if you look at the S right here and the M here, they're not lined up, and that's basically because this border is adding like 3 pixels or something like that that is kind of robbing some space, it's stealing some space. So I want to add another class to the ones that are not, right? And it's going to be called, the class is going to be reminder of. That is basically going to use up the same space as these, but it's not going to have a background on it. That way it pushes the text here the same amount of pixels as these right here, except no coloring. So because of that, you have to then create a separate class, and then we're going to, let's just go ahead and do this here, yeah, right here, and let's just copy this reminder and put it here like that. But now this one is going to be called reminder off, and then here is going to be using this. So that is the negative of. That means this is true and this is false. Okay, make sure you have a comma there, by the way. So now when I hit enter, watch how that moved. Okay, you can tell now that they're completely even, right? So once I create the toggle function to toggle these, you can see this lines will also be toggled according to whatever value is in the task reminder. Okay, all right, so we learned a few things. We learned how to use these icons. We learned the use of ngIf. We learned the use of ngClass. So these are all great things that we got to learn today, right? All right, so I'll see you guys in the next one.